Well, hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Hope you're all well. Today we're going to be doing something completely different after yesterday's shenanigans. We were flying the A350-1000 from Brussels to Heathrow, and unfortunately we did encounter a few issues on final, which caused us to not end the video in a great send-off after everything that happened. So today we're choosing something completely different. We're actually parked in Miami currently in the Boeing 737 MAX. We're in November 308 Romeo Delta, which is one, of course, of American's fleet. And you can see we're on the ground here in Miami. The sun is shining, and the surroundings looking pretty nice as always. We'll probably see more of that as we depart out of Miami. And today, as you can see from the video, we're going to be flying this 737 MAX from Miami to Key West, and our flight number today, American 4852. That's what we'll be taking to Key West. Now I know what most of you are thinking. It's going to be very difficult to try and land this into Key West, which is why I've accepted the challenge just to try and do it. I think the limit that they normally would send to Key West is maybe an A319 or something around that, so it's definitely something to try and experience today with the 737 MAX. We're going to try and take the aircraft there and land it. We're going to depart runway 08 right today off this runway here, and we'll be landing runway 09, and we should have some great views on departure. We are using some ortho scenery from Orbex. We're using Chua, Florida today, and as you can tell, the surroundings are absolutely phenomenal, and we'll probably see more of that as we get into the air. Well, we're on the gate right now, Delta 28, and hopefully I'm not going to be late today, so we're going to jump in to the aircraft. We're in cold and dark. We've just connected our GPU and our chocks, and we're going to start the aircraft up fairly quickly. Going to make sure that everything is on with the ground power, and we'll then start the alignment of our IRSs. And we have a good line on both of them, so we can now, not used to seeing these big screens for a while. It says my nav data is out of date, even though it shouldn't be. January the 28th to the February the 24th. Okay, that is not correct. But we're not going to worry about it because our flight plan should be correct today. So we're taking off course from Miami. We're going from GPS left position, and we're flying to Key West today. Flight number is American 4852, and we're taking off runway 08 right today, and we'll be taking the M82 departure, and then the M82 departure basically takes us out to, well, it basically takes us out to sea, as you can see, and we'll, no pun intended, we'll basically be taking the waypoint Janka after M8, so we can pop that in here, Juliet Alpha November Kilo Alpha, Janka, and that will basically take us across there, and then Key West will just be a little bit further ahead, so honestly do not have too much to worry about on this flight today. Even popping that in, we could probably have a look at the arrival itself, which is just going to be an RNAV, so we will set that up when we get to around Fanir and M8. We do need to worry about our zero fuel weight and different things like that, so we'll bring us over to the payload section, of course, and I've set everything up in kilos because I never normally use pounds. I know a few of you obviously when you fly do, but it's much easier for me to use kilos, so we've just set it up that way. We're gonna bring in 5,096, so just 5 tons, there we go. And it seems like we have too much, so we'll actually have to call the fuel truck. A bit unrealistic to get rid of our fuel. Normally we would just keep that fuel, but by the time we're set up and ready to go, that should be gone. And our payload, of course, today, we need to also put into the EFB, and our payload today is 17.9 as such. And now we can quickly go over and set a cost index of, we really don't need to go that fast today, so we can probably set something around 15. We'll do a reserve of 1. Our zero fuel weight we will put in a second once the fuel has finished obviously decreasing to where it needs to be. Our zero fuel weight is expected to be 59.6, but I like to just wait and clarify with the aircraft just to make sure if there's any differences, especially on the Max, as there are a few differences compared to the Zebo, so we will keep that in mind. We're going to go up to flight level 200 today, which is probably going to be okay. Probably gives us enough time to work our way out, even though we could probably go a little bit lower than that. I just feel like if we go to flight level 200, we're going to get to cruise and then it will just be an instant descent, but maybe actually looking at it and by our weight we may be able to do that. So what we'll do is we'll go flight level 200 and we'll make sure that everything is okay on our page, just to make sure that we are all good for our departure, and the takeoff is good after balloon, and then when we reach top of climb the winds will be 008 at 11 knots, which is what we can expect at cruise, and it looks like we're going to have an ISO deviation of 10 today, which makes sense because we're going to be lower than normal. We're still waiting for that fuel to come down, so probably turn the fuel pumps on and start the APU now. We're going to bring our altitude up to 20,000 feet. Can turn the seatbelt signs on. And we can actually start our flight leg as well, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a very cool system that's implemented into Zebo 737s, where you're able just to press start flight leg.
Ladies and gentlemen, the boarding door is now closed. Flight attendants prepare doors for departure. Crash check, fair price strap, stand by for all call.
And it will basically act like that. I just realised that the anti-collision light is on, which is not good.
Alright,
That's
we've got
why.
everyone strapped in. Give us a ring if you need anything.
Oh no. I've messed everything up. She's going to close the door on us now and everything. Oh, okay, she didn't. Maybe just because I ended it. Okay, not to worry. So yeah, normally, make sure that you do have the anti-collision light off, by the way. Sometimes there's a bit of a glitch with this plane where you load in cold and dark and the anti-collision light will be on. Bit of a strange one, not sure why. But if the anti-collision light is off and you're at the gate and you have the door open, the door should have been open, there we go. You can even open the cargo doors as well. And we've got a bit of sound coming in now, so if we were to press start flight leg, as you would see,
At this time we need large electronic devices, laptop computers, to be turned off and stowed.
it looks like I have messed up with the PA system,
May be used, however, they must be switched
but not
into
to worry,
airplane mode
normally
at
it
this
does
time.
work
And all
seamlessly.
calls
I just
and
think
texts
me
terminated.
turning on the anti-collision light there may have messed up a few things, but normally it works straight out of the box. You just leave it in the background to do its thing, and then when you're ready to go you'll turn the anti-collision light on, and as you just saw what they were trying to do, they would close all the doors, close the cockpit door, close everything, and now they're going through all the safety thing. Maybe we'll just turn this off for the moment then. Hopefully we can just click it back on and it will be back in place for our takeoff. So we're just about close to getting our fuel. We're about 1.5 tons away. We need 5 altogether for today, and our center tanks are now off. We can probably bring all of our fuel pumps on in a second. Okay, 6 tons, so we're getting there now. Almost ready to rock and roll, so we will quickly go ahead and do our better pushback procedure.
Round to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
Cool. So we are almost there now with the fuel. Just a few more seconds until we have everything good to go. And once that's done, we'll be ready to put in our last bit on the takeoff performance page. And today it wants us to take 5-1, so that should be it now. And it is, so we can now load our zero fuel weight, which is 60.9. So it was slightly off, only by 1.3, but still it was off a little bit compared to what it should have been. And if you see now, we've put 200 in and it still says that we can only go up to 160, so it's going to be very close to climb up to 200 and then descend. But considering we're going to do the RNAV arrival as well, which will take us in, it will probably give us a bit more leeway. So if we really wanted to, just to play it safe, we could probably bring it down to flight level 180, and then that just gives us a bit of separation then. So flight level 180, we know we've added our cruise stuff, but that shouldn't be too effective between 2000, so should leave it that way. Got our selected temperature of 15 degrees. We can probably derate quite a lot today. We won't even need a full climb out just because of how light we are. Our center of gravity is in there. We can set our V speeds. I will now set that on the IAS to 147. Set our altitude to 12,000 feet, as we'll probably climb up there first. And bring our fuel pumps on, bring our hydraulics, turn the APU bleed on, turn the window heat and the trim air, and the yaw damper of course. And we seem ready for departure. So what we can do is we can double check that everything is good, which I believe it is. So we'll go to better pushback and start our
Ground to
pushback.
cockpit. Tow is driving up.
We can now remove the chocks. We got 4.84 on the trim, which is good. Just had an update on the weather, so we're going to check that quickly. The winds are now 060 at 13, gusting 21, so it's a little bit windy, I'll say, out of Miami today. The altimeter is 3033. And we believe that is set on both sides, which it is. The GPU is disconnected. And what we'll do is we'll start the flight leg again, and now what we'll do
Okay,
is
all
we'll
doors and hatches are closed.
turn on the
Ready to connect.
anti-collision light, because we're ready to go. And we should have the announcements like normal now. Hopefully.
Ladies and gentlemen, the boarding doors are closed. Flight attendants prepare doors for departure. Cross check, verify strap, stand by for all calls.
And there we go.
Alright, we've got everyone strapped in. Give us a ring if you need anything.
Okay, so the door is now closed. And we're looking pretty good at the moment.
So connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Okay, so we'll start the... Just want to double check that is the clock I'm pressing. There we go. Start the clock on that side, release the parking brake.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Devices, laptop computers,
And off we
to
go.
be turned off and stowed.
Yeah, she really is great, the Boeing 737 MAX. It's a very controversial aircraft, of course, because lots of people at the time were very dubious about flying it. They thought, well, should I be flying this, shouldn't I? Because of the, I guess, the dispute between developers as well. I think the story, how we know it as simmers and enthusiasts in the community. I believe it's a mix of a team, and half of them went to Threshold, and half of them went to it's just basically a Discord community known, there's a person who's called himself Walter White, I presume to disclose his identity, and he continued working on the 737 MAX, and in fact ended up making all of the variants from the MAX 6 to the MAX 10, I want to say. I believe that's how many he did. I know most of you are thinking there's no such thing as a MAX 6, but he actually ended up doing one just out of sheer boredom, I presume, and it ended up coming out very nicely, and it's quite a cool aircraft to fly. And the FPS handles very well. We're just in a very heavy FPS spot here at the moment, as you can imagine, with a lot of things running. But overall, she flies and handles fairly well. So we're going to start our engines, because these engines do take a bit longer to start than not your average 737 engines, as anyone who's flown this plane will know. So we're going to start our sequence on engine number 2 now. We'll wait for the engines to motor for a few minutes, and I believe that Walter White has now updated this, because obviously Zebo is updating the 737 every single day, and I know that Walter White is basically taking the code every so often and adding it to the Walter White 737 project and then implementing it into the MAX. So for example, I know recently Zebo added the feature for the the cabin cameras, and you now have that on the display here by a click of a button, and you can have it there. Haven't turned it on yet because it's one of the buttons you need to press, but it's just different things like that which are nice gestures and features to be added to the aircraft. Makes it feel like more of a Zebo matter. You can see the engine is motoring now around 22 to 24.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Now normally the engine would start between 24 and 25, so now what we can do is we can start number 2. Probably should have started that a little bit before, but not to worry. Okay, number 2 is now alive. And we'll go ahead and start number 1. Disconnect and hand signals from the ground crew. Now we just gotta wait for our second engine to motor and start.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal will be on the left. We'll see you next time. Have a safe flight.
Right, so we're getting a little bit of a performance here, but nothing too drastic. We're actually okay, so, and as soon as we get in the air, it'll probably be a bit better performance-wise as well, so nothing too horrible. So we're approaching 24 again, so we'll probably do it a little bit early this time, and you can see the engine straight away is taking effect. To do its start sequence as it does. I know that there's similar aircraft who actually have to do the same kind of sequence, like with the Tolis A321neo expansion that they brought out recently. That's obviously the Pratt & Whitney engines have to motor, and they obviously have a huge amount of cooling, I believe, that goes into the engine that obviously cools down the engine itself, as it can get very hot inside the core of the engine itself. So to wind that down to our heading for departure, which I believe is 084. Actually, maybe a little bit more than that. I'm going to double check, maybe around 088. We have a good start on both, so we'll do our after start, turn the gens on. Lights are good. Trim is set 147 for departure. We can now do our test, which is full left, full right, full up, full down, rudder is full right, full left. Have a good speed brake test, and our flaps are coming down as normal. And we are ready to go. Ground crew is clear, so we can release the parking brake, and I presume we won't need to add any thrust, as this aircraft just is like a mini Dreamliner. It's a mini 787 that just can produce enough energy on its own, but it doesn't really require my help. I say that and it's struggling a little bit, but if I put a little bit of power, and as soon as that momentum gets moving, we should be all good to go. Again, I haven't flown this for a while. I believe we're on version 4.3 and I was on version 4.0, so there have definitely been a few changes implemented overall to the aircraft in the past few updates, and it could have potentially changed the physics of how it handles as well, so there could be a few differences during this video. At the moment we're all good, just continuing our taxi out. Some nice PBR on the ground today. Now we're taking off 08 right, so we may as well just follow the taxiway that just takes us across 08 right. Should be much easier. Bit of speed up here now so we can get on our way. Our frame rate is slightly getting effective here. I can tell that that's why we're having a weather injection currently. Okay, so we're on our way out to 08 right, which is a fairly quick taxi to the end. And I'm hoping this FPS issue is going to be fixed by the time we get in the air. Normally when I fly into Miami, especially with the scenery at hand, it can be a little bit stressful on the system. I guess it's trying to load everything else in as well, it's trying to stream and different things like that, so I do take that into account as well. But for the moment, we should be okay. We probably could use an intersecting departure. But normally they would just use the full runway anyway. At 20 knots, you can see the speed is starting to come alive a little bit now. We put a little bit of throttle, but normally this aircraft just does depend on its own energy most of the time, especially if it's fairly light. we're just holding that speed at 25, don't really want to go any faster than that. And we're already approaching the end of the runway, so we can prepare for our departure. Bring that speed down a bit now, just to keep us under control. The wind's at 06013, gusting 21, QNH 3033, temperature is 22 degrees Celsius or 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Bring the TCAS on. Weather I was going to put on, but you know what, I don't think we really need it. You can probably put the weather and data on that side. And we probably need to look where we're going as well, which would be very handy. We're not going to take off on runway 12, that would be bad, so let's turn here. Let's turn our strobe lights on.
Slightly seated for departure.
Tell the cabin crew we are ready to go. I'm sorry about the frame rate right now, that's the best I can do with it, and you'll see why when we take off in a second as to why it's struggling a little bit, but overall I'm pretty impressed with how it's handling. There may be a few issues here and there, but overall it's pretty nice the way how it's handling. So, parking brake is set, we can set our heading to 094, landing lights can come on, strobes are on. The cabin is looking good for departure. We could probably bring this down to 180 like we said we would. And everything is good. So that is our departure. Make our right turn and then end up going out to sea and then down to Key West. Here we go, guys. Brake released. And that's 40%. Stable and togo. I believe the clock may start on its own, but we'll just start it just to be careful, and the clock is already starting on that side, 13 minutes, and that's power set.
80 knots.
A bit windy, 80 knots.
V1, rotate. Positive raise.
Straight away feeling that wind, positive climb, and it's gear up. Straight away that wind is affecting us coming from northwesterly direction. By the looks of it, we're holding speed 180, that's exactly what we want. We can continue our right turn, and we want LNAV, and we're going to follow the flight director. Want to hold our speed. Off we go. Okay, autopilot 1 is engaged at 180 knots, passing 3,000 feet. We have a beautiful view of the city below us. Making that right turn. Feet, we can probably start to bring that speed up to 250 now. Wind is still hitting us pretty badly. passing flaps 1. With the downtown section of Miami, the coast is superb about the clouds here. One day when I get a better graphics card, I will definitely do this scenery some more justice, hopefully a bit better than today. You can also switch these screens as well in this max variant. You just have to pop it here and then you're able to change it. Sometimes I normally do just leave it on the smaller display just so I can have my engine information as well. It's a little bit windy as we depart, getting a bit of turbulence. Normally it's bumpy sometimes out of Miami, it's just the way it is. Probably be switched off. That can be moved to auto, taxi light can come off, landing lights will come off at 10,000, we can just turn those off now. We're climbing up to 180, so we'll bring that up to 180 and we'll bring VNav as that. It should bring us up to speed now, and obviously Janka is there, so for our arrival we're going to take the RNAV 09, and you can see there that's the two that they're offering, either Sting, which is obviously what we can probably join, as you can see here. We go to the routing section. It's very strange, normally when we're in plan, there we go. So we can see where we need to go. So after Janka, it wants us to go to Sting. Although if we really wanted to, we could double check quickly to see where the strap arrival is going to take us from. So the strap actually takes us further out. So it actually, that's a tough one. They look both pretty similar to each other. So what we'll do is we'll use maybe Sting as we'll use Sting as our reference waypoint, and then halfway between Emnate and Janka we'll probably route direct to Sting, and then that will probably give us a better descent profile for when we arrive into Key West. So we'll execute that like such. We'll say unable cruise, but we know that we can get to cruise, so it's fine. Just the important part to note is that it wants us to be 3,000 above at Chets, and then 1,500 at North, so we will keep that in mind. The aircraft is climbing pretty quickly, having no issues here. And we have left the coast of Miami and suddenly the frame rate has just gone to another level. The scenery behind us at Miami. So we're about 1,000 from cruise. And you can see now this is where some of the ortho scenery is really starting to show its glory, especially on the route down to the Keys. reaching cruise now. We can now set our
1,000 to go.
standard altimeter, because we are at 18,000 feet. That throttle should come back down now. There we go, we have some real unique shots here. This is one of my favourite routes to do when flying out of Miami. I mean, you have such a variety of destinations to fly to from Miami. You have so many islands in the Caribbean. You have St. Martin, St. Kitts, Barbados, Punta Pitre. You have anywhere you want to fly to, all maybe about 2 hours away. So any short-haul aircraft you want to pick up for the day, the A320, A321, whatever it is, you can definitely venture out to all of these locations. But just to know that Key West is literally 30 minutes away from Miami, and you just have this beautiful journey all the way down where you're just filled with all of these little different islands, and each one is unique to the other. And of course, Orbex have not done a half-witty job with this. They have gone full out and made sure that the colour correction and all of the imagery stands out more than anything. And by far, and indeed it definitely does. And you'll see that as we continue down to the Keys. We're about 15 DME from M8, not long until we make our right turn. We're about 125 nautical miles away from Key West, so again, not that far at all. That's probably measuring the distance as well via the amount of waypoints that we are currently taking and the way we set it up. So we will get to about halfway between M8 and Janka, and then we'll probably route direct our way to Sting, and then we can join the RNAV arrival for runway 09, where we will try to attempt to land this aircraft. 10 DME now from M8. Everything has been set up arrival-wise. We just need to go to the initial reference page and make sure that everything is set up there. The runway is 4,787 feet, so we need to play it safe today. We probably could do a flaps 40 arrival, and we will do full auto brake just to make sure that we do get it down. Our gross weight currently is 65.1, but our actual gross weight when we land will be lower than that. So we need to deduct 5, as our final will be 3.7. Our fuel quantity now is 4.2, so you have to subtract to either one, and you obviously, the difference is 0.5 between the two. Obviously it's just gone down now, but you would obviously put that in there, so we would put 64.5, so we would subtract that, and then that gives us our correct V-speed then. And you can obviously double check that yourself when you approach the runway if you're feeling a bit uncertain or unsure, just so you can always clarify them. The flaps 40, we have the wind correction, so we'll probably land 145. It says to end the descent is 180 knots, so I presume it thinks that we've already started our descent when we haven't. We've got 45 nautical miles until we approach Janka. When we feel it's necessary to do so, we will redirect to Sting. For the time being though, we just have to admire all of these views that we get in today, because they are stunning. One of the most amazing thing about all of these projects is that they all come for completely free. You don't invest any money into this at all. I mean, the only thing you invest into is X-Plane itself, the actual program, but the developers who provide this aircraft provide it completely free. The same with Zebo, the same with the Level Up 737 that's coming very soon. It's just a lot of different content and aircraft in general that are available on X-Plane that provide a certain level of immersion and simulation that is really just so enjoyable from a simmer's perspective. And it's amazing to think that all of this is provided for absolutely nothing. It's just completely free. And again, the feedback and the development is always updated. It's very quick. It's not slowed down at all. So it really makes you think about the kind of work that some of these developers are doing behind the scenes. We're slowly edging closer to Janko. We're about 35 DME. And I can see that we're not too far away from Sting. So what we can do is we can probably amend our arrival a little bit now. And when we get to about 30 DME from Janko, we're going to route direct ourselves and we're going to turn on a heading of around 275, and that will take us directly to Sting. We have actually gone just a little bit behind that now, so if we wanted to, we could just direct ourselves to Sting now. And there we go. So 55 nautical miles from Sting. Still doesn't know what our cruise is, which is interesting. We should have known what our cruise is. Which means that we probably should have started our descent already. Sometimes I do get this issue on the aircraft where you need to put a different number in as to what you're climbing. In fact, we may need to put something lower. For the moment it doesn't seem to be cooperating. There we go. We've just had that, so let's do flight level 150, which it has done there. At the moment, I think we're okay because the speed tape says that we're not that far away from starting our descent. Looking at the VNAV profile, 47 nautical miles from Sting. Got one of the airports there. On the left, I believe runway 26 simulations, the people who made Miami have actually made this airport as well. It's in the works currently. I forgot the name of the airport, the name escapes me, but I know that it is in development. It's something that they have been working on, and it's pretty much one of the airports that is there just before you get to Key West. I presume much smaller than Key West, but yeah. So we'll probably play it safe, and we're going to descend down to flight level 160. That way it gives us a chance to amend the actual aircraft itself. Right, VNAV path, we're approaching flight level 160, and then our top of descent is there, so this is perfect. Our arrival information into Key West. Well, this is very interesting. The winds have updated again now at Key West, and we're expected to have forecasted winds of 07013 gusting 27, which is, wow, that's going to be pretty intense for the runway that we're landing on. I mean, we've got 4,500 meters, sorry, not 4,500 meters, we've got 1,500 meters to deal with, just under 5,000 feet. I think an actual fully loaded aircraft needs, well, 737 at least, I think it needs 6,500 or 7,000 feet to land at least, from what I'm aware of. Today we're going to try and do it in less than half of that, so how this goes. We're approaching 30 DME from Sting, so that will just continue us on with the arrival. Sun is still shining. So approaching 16,000 feet. Now, as much as we want to stay at 16,000, we don't, because we can see the top of descent is coming up again. So we're going to bring this down to 1,500. The VNAV profile should kick in now as we pass 16,000 feet. And there we go. Our top of descent has been initiated correctly now. Throttle idle. We can now follow our VNAV profile down to runway 09. Start to see some of the islands in the background start to appear. Key West is over there somewhere. 25 DME from Sting. Feet, and we did check. Of course, the temperature is 23 degrees Celsius, 73 Fahrenheit, and the QNH here is 3028, so the altimeter is a little bit less than when we left Miami. Got some great parts of the island approaching here, and I believe Key West is hiding between one of these. Some people get quite confused when arriving because Key West, where it's situated, it has an Air Force airport right in front of one of the runways. I think it's 09, so as soon as you take off you potentially fly over the Air Force base, as it's directly in front of the airport, so if anything were to happen, they obviously have the equipment and stuff there, but some people end up landing at that airport and they think, well, this doesn't look like Key West, and it's well, psych, it's not Key West, it's Key West Air Force Base. So okay, so we're going to approach flight level, so you're saying flight level 100, we're 10,000 here in the US, so approaching 14 DME from Sting. We're going to start our approach phase in a second. Speed is coming back to 240, which is normal. Start to see the airport just over there, I believe. Actually, I believe that is the Air Force Base there. I think I made the clever mistake of doing that. Although you can see the cruise ship is there, so maybe, just maybe it is. We'll see now anyway. We're about to make our left turn in about 9 DME. Bring in that throttle in a little bit just to hold us at 240. In real life they would do this as well. Obviously when the thrust is in hold, the thrust just goes to idle and it expects the aircraft to descend at the speed that you've selected for the descent. In this case it's 240 because we're going below 10,000 feet. Now in in real life, obviously the throttle would be idle, so if you didn't have any power to the aircraft as such, the speed would just keep going down. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes the rate of descent is perfect, so the speed actually won't budge, because maybe the winds or something aren't as bad. Some days you don't get as lucky, and you'll see now the speed tape is kind of going to gradually go down, and it would get to a point where the aircraft would actually have to pick up the throttle itself and then idle again when it gets to a higher amount, and it just kind of keeps this consecutive sequence of constantly throttling up your engines, then idling and throttling and then idling, just to keep that speed stable, whereas you can actually control the throttles yourself on the VNAV descent. You can obviously put the throttle in a little bit just to help your aircraft maintain that 240 knots, and it will actually help you maintain a better VNAV profile as well, because the VNAV profile that's obviously been implemented is depending on your speed obviously that you're using for your descent. So there's a lot of different factors that you need to take into consideration when descending in these kind of aircrafts. At 8,000 feet now, we are getting pretty close. We can turn the landing lights on, ding the cabin crew. Taxi light, yeah, why not? Pop it on now. Gives us a bit more light. You can see the big screen guiding us in. Bring our speed down a little bit now. Now we're pretty light today, so I'm hoping that we're going to be able to slow down fairly quickly. And we're going to need to for the arrival as well, because as soon as we make that left turn, it's going to line us up pretty quick with runway 09, so we want to be stable to a point when we're landing there. I can feel that the winds are starting to hit the plane a little bit already, which is normal. As I did say that we would expect that. So 7,000 feet, and that will be cabin crew seats for landing. Past few times I've been flying here, I've had a huge cloud around Key West, so I haven't really been able to properly see it until the cloud goes, as such, like now. You can see some of the island around us. I'm trying to get a good view of the airport. I believe that is the military air base there. And I believe the actual airport is right there, Key West. So we have the airport in sight. That speed is coming down slowly, but that's okay. Probably keep it stable at 230, don't want it to go anywhere lower than that. Bring the speed intervention, bring it to 230 knots. Weather's updated again a little bit. About to pass through a cloud, it seems. Oh, we just have, that's all good. Altimeter still 3028. And we're good, approaching 5,000 feet. Continue our final descent to 1,500 feet. It wants us to be above 1,500, but we want to make sure that we're going to maintain that VNAV profile, because right now we're still too high, so we're going to try and catch up to the VNAV profile, and hopefully once we do, we can then reduce our speed and try and maintain that glide slope. Then we should be ready to land by that point, so it's all going to happen fairly quickly now. We're 60 ME, so I can probably bring that down and activate flaps 1. We now have the glide slope in effect. Flaps are bringing our final speed down. Need to descend further and further now. It looks like our final heading is 095. Probably just set that as reference in the course box. And what we'll do is we'll bring our speed back to 180 knots. We'll activate the FAC approach. Set 095 on the heading. Continue bringing we don't really need to worry about descending too much now because we're below the glide slope, so we'll probably cut our vertical speed just a little bit, which means the speed can actually come down on its own, gives a chance for the glide slope to catch up. We're pretty close to the runway now, 2,500 on our radio altimeter. Flaps 5.
2,500.
And that's our 2,500 checked. And here we go. Glide path has been achieved. Seem to be slightly off with our heading, but I presume that's just the wind as well that's playing havoc. Tried to descend a bit later. We'll try to reduce speed a bit later as we've got a 26 knot headwind right now, and that's definitely causing a bit of hell for us. Aircraft is pretty stable though, just trying to maintain that wind. Continuing that descent, bring this down to 2.5. Final landing speed, of course, 145. Can bring that down to 145. Go flaps 15, we have the noise. Let's go continuous engine start and gear down. Speed brake is now armed. Approaching 4 DME, we've got flaps 25. We're actually going to change. I think we're going to... To be honest, actually, we're okay. We're not going to change anything. We're going to bring out our flaps 40. And we're going to continue our final descent now as we pass over. What a beautiful shot of the dark there.
1,000 feet, stable and dismissed approach altitude.
And we're 1,000 feet. And we're going to take over manually now because the winds are very strong. We just want to make sure that we land safely. That was a hard one, but we need to get her down, otherwise we are not going to stop.
80 knots.
60. Well, that was a bit of a poor one, I'm afraid, but unfortunately, when you're landing into a place like this, it's more about getting it down than worrying about the landing rate. We did suffer real bad wind turbulence. On final there, probably most likely would have gone around. Okay, I'm gonna vacate here. And bring our speed brakes back into play. Double check the aircraft's okay. It's nothing like our landing rate that it was yesterday. Okay, and we'll taxi straight in. Nice and easy in Key West. Obviously it's not that big of an airport, so you don't really need to worry too much about where we're going. And we could probably park here on the right. There we go. So altogether, we didn't stop the clock, but it was 33 minutes and 35 minutes, so it was 48 minutes from gate to gate, and it was 33 minutes flight time. Pretty nice. We could probably go ahead and quickly replay the landing of that, just to see what we were up to in that manicness on final there. Probably change the view to the tower and just see what we were dealing with. We were all stable and fine. As soon as we got to about 100 feet though, we cut the throttle and suddenly we had a huge shoot of wind which pushed the aircraft all the way to the either the left or the right. I think it was to the left. Oh no. And there it was. That was the huge amount of gust that caused us to unfortunately land a bit more harder than we wanted to. We did get it down. The max demonstrating how effective its reverse thrust and auto brake max on the 737 MAX. I'm sure that was appropriate to showcase. We did arrive alright, and we did get to see some nice views along the way, which always helps. Now we'll just bring her forward to where she actually needs to be on the gate. Really handy feature, the replay feature from X-Plane. One of the reasons why I use it quite a lot is just because of things like this, just to be able to showcase from different views and just you to see it from different angles. We can toggle the replay mode and we can make sure that that is off. We can connect the GPU to the aircraft and we can now shut number 1 and shut number 2. And that's our engine shutdown complete. We can turn the seatbelt signs off. We can turn the anti-collision lights off.
Prepare for arrival and cross-check, thank you.
And there we go. In real life you'd be standing up, you'd see them open the cockpit door, and you'd be like, who's hiding in there today? Who just did that terrible landing? Well, it was me, unfortunately. But we're here safely, and we are on stand. And overall that was a pretty enjoyable flight. Didn't really have as many issues as we encountered from yesterday, so that was always something that was quite handy. I want to thank you again for watching. If you did stay to the end, I do appreciate it. and obviously there'll be some more content coming soon as always, especially for people who are watching through Twitch. I will try and get some more live streams out this week, as I know that there's been a bit more video content on my YouTube channel recently, and I'm trying to balance between the two so I can get a good variety in the mix. But that should all be coming out pretty soon. I do hope that you enjoyed the video, and again, if you have any ideas, feel free to let me know. If you did enjoy what you saw today, feel free to subscribe on YouTube or give me a follow through Twitch. It always does help me out for future videos and just shows your support. Once again, I hope you all have a great evening. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks guys, good night. Just before I go guys, because I've just seen on the stream there a few messages from you. Zachary747, Ryanair 4000, note, that's American, and it wasn't 4000, but yeah, American 4852 today. And Claudinho, where did I get the max from? This is a Walter White 737 project, like I was explaining before, which you can find earlier in the video. I will put a link in the description of this video where you can access the Discord so you can download this aircraft. But that's everything from me guys. Thanks again for watching. You all have a great evening, and I'll catch you soon. Bye bye.